All right. Are we live? I don't know. I guess we're live right now with
I think
hey,
we are. Mm.
um, Andy
We were,
Hall, more with Big
yes,
Zebra.
yeah, and we were talking about how Dr. Kennard needs a denim shirt.
Really cute.
Oh, there's Tobin.
There's Belvin Templeman, the man, the myth, the legend.
Hmm.
How are you this morning, Mr. Templeman? I think the internet may be his enemy this morning.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
frozen. He's frozen in time. Did
Yes.
you notice that time keeps on slipping,
Slipping
slipping,
away.
slipping into the future?
Are we doing this?
Into the future.
Yes, we are, apparently.
I guess we are. Yeah.
Hmm. That's a problem with that particular line because it's telegraphed. Because the moment you repeat slipping twice, everyone knows you're quoting that song.
Well, I think they probably. No, this is interesting. What's up, Theo? I don't know, because different songwriters or musicians write their create differently. Some people start with the lyrics first. Some people
Hmm.
start with the music first. Sullivan Templeman, man of a man of notes. That's what you are. How do you compose? Do you compose the music first and then throw the lyrics in, or vice versa?
Oh, I'm a man of variety, so I will try many different ways. But this block of songs, Truth Claims, was all written first. The lyrics were all written out first, and I used those to create the song.
Cool.
I kind of like that because I take the time to think about the meaning of the song. Like that, these songs actually mean something to me. There's an actual message, and it's not just rhyming words and
Yeah.
like abstract thought. There's a point.
I like to pay attention to the lyrics myself because after singing so many hymns as a kid and as a teenager, I'm like, what am I singing exactly?
Mm.
And then you look at the hymnal, at the lyrics, and it's like, wow, how about that? This is what I've been singing for the last forever.
Yes. By the way, Dr. Kennard, John Hudson also wants to see you in a Canadian tuxedo. So that's two of us.
I'll tell you what. If you want to contribute money for me to get into a Canadian tuxedo, sure, that's fine. But all my pennies, the pennies and this is why I have pennies to begin with, is that I hold the pennies and I don't spend them unwisely. That's what I would say right there. And maybe investing in maybe I wouldn't get a return on my investment in a Canadian tuxedo. That's all I'm saying.
Somebody wore a Canadian tuxedo to the Oscars one year. I can't remember who it was now. It wasn't a Canadian.
So once again, with a bow tie, I need a Canadian tuxedo. So once again, let's review what a Canadian tuxedo again is. Big Zebra, do you want to take it away?
Sure. And a Canadian tuxedo is described as someone wearing a denim shirt with denim pants and a denim jacket or a jean jacket, as you say. It's all jeans, and it's kind of overkill. It's like
Yeah.
being, but it's kind of funny, and I don't know why that would be a Canadian tuxedo. Did a Canadian wear one once? I don't know.
I don't know. Now, just for clarification, do I have to do all the same washes? Like they all have to be stone wash, or could they be
I think they
different?
should match.
Just to reveal the absurdity of the Canadian tuxedo.
I think so.
And they
Yeah,
should be
you probably have a book on it behind you there.
Oh no, I can guarantee you. There's no book on the variations of what's up, Kendra, of Canadian tuxedos. Though that would be an interesting tome to have for bathroom reading, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry, I sometimes click on news
That's
headlines.
actually the
while we
first time.
talk. Sorry,
Oh,
go
what-
ahead.
That's actually the first time I've heard it referred to as a Canadian tuxedo.
Ah,
Although I have seen that outfit worn.
Oh, who hasn't seen yeah. I was coming home from a concert. I think it was well, it was a long time ago. And there was a gentleman decked out. I was riding the train and he was in a Canadian tuxedo. I did not know that it was a Canadian tuxedo at the time. But in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have asked him either. If he got, his where he got fit for his Canadian tuxedo.
Right on. I clicked on a news article and it really kind of shocked me. Whoopi Goldberg apologizes for saying Holocaust was not about race. And the Germans certainly thought it was about race.
Well, so. It was. You can make, it's difficult to say that even in the most broadest sense of the Holocaust, where it's basically about eugenics, right? It's about eugenics, which is the practice of, I don't know, man, making this crazy concept created, by the way, by Charles. Not Charles Dickens, Darwin. Darwin's cousin, Francis Galton. He was a big statistician at the time, and he came up with the concept of making the species better in his weird way of looking at things by eugenics. And it was all about race. It was all about trying to purify the German race, the Volk, and that's just so wrong on so many different levels. Not just the moral. Just not on morally speaking, but once again, Nazis are stupid, right? Fundamentalists are stupid. They don't understand how things work. And so you just got to look at a purebred dog and look at all the problems that dog has. And then you have to say, wow, maybe pure breeding is not a wise choice. Maybe this is not the way this should go.
And mutts make for very good dogs.
Sure.
Who's a good dog?
Who? That is the age-old question.
Yeah, and there's been over the years, both Canada and the U.S. had a lot of flirtation with eugenics. Beyond flirtation, and it was truly horrible. All these people were sterilized. 3 generations of idiots is enough. That was Oliver Wendell Holmes.
There were, Nazis failed in genetics. They did. They failed the genetics class. It just shows you how just knowing a little bit of science, and I think Neil deGrasse Tyson said something about this. It's like knowing something just enough to get you into trouble. That's paraphrasing him. And you just take an idea, and you just take the germ of it, and then you just get it completely wrong, and you just run with it.
I came up with an idea to improve ourselves without using the eugenic trap, where you end up projecting your own prejudices on. So, for example, a surveyor sees a family that he thinks is low class, and so he has them all sterilized. And it turns out that they were poor, but there was no reason to, aside from that. And my idea is called VCS, which is voluntary compensated sterilization. So what you do is that you have to do it by the numbers. So, for example, if someone has dropped out of high school and has a criminal record and has, say, 2 or 3 other factors, they can agree to be sterilized in exchange for, say, $25,000 up front and $25,000 put into a retirement fund.
I don't know how that could go wrong, Big Zebra.
I know. It's flawless. It's absolutely flawless. But but bad science, unfortunately, frustrates these efforts. There was apparently, maybe you were the one to tell me about this, Do you remember the marshmallow test for kids?
Oh yeah, the marshmallow test for kids. If you don't know what the marshmallow test for kids is,
Mhm.
it is from an early age. I don't know how old the kids were, 3, 4, 5. You had basically two groups of kids. Well, it was a proper study, and one of the it was to test whether or not the kid had self control at an early age, and it was a longitudinal study too, and it was to see whether or not kids who exercise self control with not eating a marshmallow, whether or not that paid off benefits in years to come. And it turned out that those kids who were able to exercise not eating a marshmallow immediately did have benefit. There are positive benefits.
In theory, but
oh,
I understand that the study is bullshit. And so you and I might have been sterilizing kids for eating marshmallows.
I'm not sterilizing anyone. I just want to say this right now. This is
But you're thinking about
and
it.
I'm not and I'm not even thinking about it. I'm anti-thinking about it.
Well, you brought it up. You're the one who wants to sterilize people.
I'm not bringing anything up.
Oh my God!
I'm going to get back to something not so serious, but really serious. Look at Himmler, an image of perfection. I have a funny story about Himmler, but I can't say it out loud because I just can't. But in related news, John Hudson says, I dated Rudolf Hess's niece. Did you really, John Hudson?
How was the sex, John Hudson?
How did that?
Did the Nazis? Did they have better sex?
That's weird. And Rudolf Hess, he was the second in command, not a very bright man, from what I understand. He took a plane over to Britain during World War II after France fell, as I recall the story, and he tried to negotiate. He flew over there to negotiate some kind of peace treaty, and he just got captured and lived the rest of his life in prison. Yeah. But you dated his niece. Crazy. Wow.
Mm.
And you know what? Theoretically, you're right. We're facing a new eugenics when you can check your in vitro fertilized eggs and select your. Yeah, that's that technology. Yes. We've seen a lot of effects of of eugenics and prejudice, right? I mean, it's the same thing. Prejudicial eugenics, like that's redundant. But in Southeast Asia, in India, especially in South Korea too, at one time, there were many girls that were basically killed at childbirth.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it is. This is. If you look at the data, when you look at the history of India and the history of certain countries, there was there were a lot of, and that's why there were so many boys at one time in places like South Korea and in India than there were females. The sex ratios were completely skewed, and there's something similar that happened in China too because of the one-child policy.
Yes.
So the one-child policy, and this is how these great big horrible authoritarian regimes make policies, but they don't understand. There are effects of them that are not foreseen at the starting point. So they have a one-child policy for decades, and then all of a sudden it's like, why do we have all these boys around and not enough women? For a lot of families, if you're only going to have one child, then if they have a choice, which they did, they just went with boy babies. Yeah.
And perversely, they wanted boy babies to carry on the family name. And when 80% of everyone is named Han, I don't think that's really necessary.
I see what you did there.
Well, it's true.
Yes, he tried to negotiate a peace treaty with Great Britain. That was Rudolf Hess. Yeah, he was the last Nazi to be, he was the last one to die. I think he died in the 70s and the 80s. He was imprisoned, I think, in Spandau prison in Berlin. and saw a couple of videos about him and about the decades he spent in jail. You sat on Hitler's knee as a 3-year-old. I think you mentioned that before, Phil Lister. That is terrifying. That is yeah. I have what's up, Chris Mary? I don't have any crazy stories even close to that.
Oh, hi, Cryptomary.
You were bathed in light. You had a halo for a minute there, Tobin Templeman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
My angel walked through the door.
Right. So Theo, Phil, wants to know how that came about. Right? I know you've told the story before, but I am curious. I remember you saying that you were on Hitler's knee as a 3-year-old, but oh, really, God? Imaginary God says he dated Cleopatra. You and a bunch of other dudes. I'm just saying.
The marshmallow thing that y'all were talking about started making me remember what I started learning about yesterday, which is the null hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just now I know I've learned about it in the past a long time ago, but it's just now gotten brought back up, and I'm going to work to understand this concept better. But I think it's to stay in a neutral position without like reading into data with cause.
When you look at a scientific study, basically if you remember your high school your high school lab, is that what's the null hypothesis? And tell me if I'm wrong, and someone here is smarter than I am, I'm sure. You're trying to prove the null hypothesis in your chemistry lab, in which there is no reaction or that the
I have a definition for it. I'll put it into both chats.
All right, dude. Yeah.
Right on.
For fun.
Okay. The null hypothesis. I'll just read from the dictionary here. From Oxford Languages. It is a statistical test, a hypothesis that there is no significant difference between specified populations. So, in other words, you're trying to show causality, right? You're trying to show causality. And the null hypothesis says that there's that there's no statistical significance. So when you're running an experiment, you're trying to prove, I guess, the null hypothesis. That's how I understand it. Yes, he died in Spandau. See, Andy Hall for the Jeopardy. Rudolf Hess died in Spandau prison in Berlin. See, I know things sometimes. Simply Secular Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Oh.
That's right. I remember the story now. I remember you telling us this, Phil. Your dad was a Swedish diplomat, and you were invited to, a Nazi wedding, and the king of all National Socialists was there. Scary stuff, man. Scary stuff.
Did the Nazis know how to party? They had a party, but I don't know.
They had a party. That's right. That is a crazy story, Phil Lister. For those of you who don't know about the Stanford marshmallow experiment, it was done in 1972, and it was about delayed gratification. And the psychologist Walter Mischel was the one who did it. But there's been a lot more. There have been many more explorations of the marshmallow experiment. So there's been a lot of there are skill sets that you can learn to basically to teach children how to become more able to control their own behavior, right? So it isn't like because the original experiment said that basically you're genetically destined. That was the implication of the marshmallow experiment, is that there's this kind of genetic predisposition and that you can't do anything about it. But later studies have shown that you can definitely teach someone how to hold their own freaking water, right? How to do impulse control.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you a little trick we used to use. I was working on a day program, and this isn't a trick. This is actually a legitimate cognitive behavioral technique that works with people who have cognitive disabilities. It was SALT. It was an acronym, so it was stop, look, listen, and think. Yeah, I know there's no A in there, but we just said SALT just as a way to prompt the person to stop, look, listen, and think. And that was a way to help someone get, because what happens with our stupid monkey brains is that we get stuck in the minute. We get stimulus bound. I believe that's the proper word for it. We get stimulus bound, and we're controlled by our environment. By prompting someone to stop, look, listen, and think, you get to have their forebrain, your thinky parts, take over, or at least it's a prompt for them to remember. It's like, look, you should be thinking about your choices right now, because a lot of the time we don't think about our choices, especially when we're in the moment. So SALT, stop, look, listen, and think. That's a pro tip here, right?
Yeah, it's a reiterative process. If you can make that part of your life where you ask yourself, why did I do that?
Yeah.
How can this be better? Are there preconditions to this?
Yeah.
You know.
Theo brings up a good point, is that Rudolf Hess, once again, was probably strangled. And I heard about that. There's a lot of mystery about how Hess died. He died an old man, from what I understand. But it's mysterious as many of those prominent prison deaths, true enough. I heard they wanted to tear down Spandau prison to do some other things with the property. That is a bit, that might be a conspiracy theory. I don't know. Yes, imaginary God. SALT is a bit different than the bite model of indoctrination into a cult. Yes, SALT is, like I said, and it's, there's no magic bullets to make us less stupid as a species, right? But when you talk about ways of, talking, and using it for yourself as well as for others, especially for children, people around you, that you're trying to teach, SALT, it's not. I've seen my own anecdotal story. It's proven. I think it's effective.
I actually do apply that as well. I have become very subconscious about the actions that I take before I actually do it.
Yeah.
Like having a process before initiating, the actual action. Because it sucks making a mistake. I mean, oh man.
As long as it doesn't become self-censorship, which is one of the worst forms of censorship, I think, where you never say something, you never make that joke that could have been brilliant, but it might offend someone.
Well, you can see, comedians, and if you just go on YouTube, like Sam Morrill, who I'm a big fan of. I saw him on concert. He's traveling around with Taylor Tomlinson. Really smart guy. He does a lot of these short videos, 60 seconds or less, of him just interacting with hecklers and him just interacting with crowds. And you get to see him basically respond to someone, process it, come up with something really clever, and respond really fast. So now the more practice you have at the method, the better you are at being able to respond to someone in real time, in the pocket, not saying something inappropriate, right? Something that is effective, but it's practice.
Does he have his? Oh, he does have his own YouTube channel, and I'm going to subscribe.
No, Sam Morrill, the man is hilarious. He is big fan of Sam's.
Man, that's
There's
quite
another
skill.
guy who's really good at that too. I've always been really impressed with people who could do that. I couldn't. I would totally choke. I'd be like, "You're a stupid doo-doo head, whatever."
Yeah. Well, it is a skill set just like any other skill set, right? So, it just takes, when you see someone like Sam Morrill, I mean, he's like 35, so he's been doing comedy probably professionally for 15 years or so, and doing it every night and just doing it over and over and over again. And he was also trained as a lawyer too.
No
So
kidding.
so he has he had the skill set, and then he just thought, I'm just going to be funny. He was already probably a funny guy, and just went with it.
And converting your knowledge of being funny in person to funny as performance, that's a bit different, because the sort of things we say to each other are funny in situ, but they don't necessarily translate to stories or jokes or.
Right. Well, I was listening to Jerry. No, I'm sorry, Jerry Seinfeld. That's right. I was listening to Jerry Seinfeld talking with David Spade. And what's up, Robert X? Oh, and thank you for the kind. Thank you for the yes, for that, what you just did. But and you're right. There's different. Jerry Seinfeld was talking to David Spade. It was on Netflix, on the Netflix channel on YouTube. Netflix is a joke. And Jerry Seinfeld told David Spade, "You know what I like about you and your act is that you have jokes." And David Spade's like, "Yes, I always enjoyed your jokes too, Jerry, especially the one about the parrot who flies into a mirror. Like, didn't he see the other parrot coming?" And I thought, wow, that's a really good joke. That's a really good joke, just divorced from current events or Rome burning at this time. It's just a parrot flying into a mirror. And why didn't he see the other parrot flying at him? Yeah.
Yeah. But you can't investigate, because if you put a parrot on the stand, all the evidence is hearsay.
That's right. I hear that. That's really good. That's
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more of a smile than a lot of humor is like that. It sort of puts you in a good mood.
Yep. Oh yeah. I totally agree with that. You went to Dachau. No, you went to Dachau. That's not. Yeah.
We
Where's
totally use
Dachau? Is that
comedy.
in Poland?
I'm thinking it might be in
Sorry,
Poland.
Tobin.
Yeah, what's up, man? What were you gonna say?
We totally use comedy as a tool. Like, we'll hear something upsetting, and it's like, all right, where is it at? Let's find something good to watch, something funny, make me laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. There are many uses and unfortunate abuses of comedy. Oh, it's near Munich. Dachau is near Munich.
Oh, okay, of course.
Yes. Theo says, my mother's grandmother's side was German Jewish, and they had to flee the Nazis. My father's grandmother's side was Silesian German, and got expelled from their land, which was turned into Poland after World War II. Ooh. That's right.
Canada had a terrible thing. A whole bunch of Jewish refugees had arrived, and Canada wouldn't take them in.
Yeah,
take back. Eventually, it was known. Someone was quoted as saying, "Can't you bring in some?" And they said, "None is too many." Famous quote.
And once again, when I think about the Catholic Church, and once again, it was only until 1964, right, with Vatican II, that official church doctrine did not say that the Jewish people, the entire race, was responsible for the crucifixion of God, right, for the death of God, Jesus in flesh. It was up until 1964, and you can't tell me that and the ghettoization, the history of ghettoization of the Jews in Europe, that did not have something directly to play with the Holocaust, right? That didn't lay the groundwork for it.
Mm-hmm. Also, for a long time, at least till Vatican II, the church had a prayer that was sort of said internally, and they asked God to. They prayed for this that the Jews would be absolved for their perfidy, which is extremely nasty. Just so that they're all traitors, really, and just awful.
Yeah. And Martin Luther, the founder of Lutheranism, he was quite anti-Semitic too. I've written a bunch of comedic pieces about Martin Luther and his dislike, hatred that more than likely he inherited from the Catholic Church.
He even believed that demons or God was punishing people um, for being. Uh, so if you were an idiot, it's obvious that demons are involved.
Yeah.
So if someone can barely
Oh.
pronounce their own name and just walking around bumping into things.
Well, there's
I would have been
this.
in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, you see this kind of real wrestling with evil in the world, right? So you have some religions like many strains of Hinduism come up with the idea of karma and reincarnation. That basically, if you're born with a disability or low caste, right, then you deserve it. Basically, you deserve that. Um, with Christianity, it becomes the how they try to do they try to do this equation. God is both all knowing, he is all powerful, and he is all good, right? Those basic qualities that a vast majority of Christians will agree with. And then they try to figure out how to make that, and there's still evil in the world. So that's a and there is no solution to that. You have to start defining or redefining what all good means. You have to start defining what all knowing is. You have to start defining what all powerful is to even come close to resolving that issue.
It's a huge contradiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that once again, the Calvinists came up with the basic, the most brutal response to that is that we all deserve death. We're all, I forget the proper how the Calvinists bring this up. It's part of the tenets of the faith is that we are totally 100% all the way through evil, and the reason why we're as good as we are now is because of God's grace. And once you go from there, it becomes a little bit more. There's still problems, of course. They just get rid of free will. They get rid of, but what they have left is that God is a moral monster. So they have to redefine what good is.
Mm. And there's, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but the Euthyphro Dilemma.
That's the horns. That's the horns of the problem, right?
Yeah. Am I pronouncing that right?
I don't know,
Yes,
man.
I think so.
I'm only from Boston. I'm only from Boston. We just say all kinds of words. So if so go ahead, Big Zebra.
Okay. Essentially, is something good because God says so, or is something, or does God love goodness because it is good?
And I've heard it as as about God's nature. So is God good because of the good acts he does, or is what is good just whatever God says?
Yeah.
So,
thank you. That was better than my take.
So basically what it says is that if everything that God does is good by definition, then you get basically William Lane Craig. And see, I know things, everyone. It isn't just fart jokes. Then it becomes William Lane Craig's divine command theory, right? That's what it becomes. It becomes basically whatever God does, whatever God tells you to do, it is by definition good. So if God tells Joshua and his tribe of genocidal lunatics to kill, Canaanite babies, right, then that's okay. Why? Because God said it's okay. And that is circular logic. That's totally circular logic. But if you
maybe
say
the Canaanite babies were very colicky.
Maybe they were. They had, and this is the thing, right? This is the way for the writers of the Bible and for Christians to say basically they deserve it, right? That they deserve what's coming to them. And so the other way, so that's if everything that God does is good by definition because God does it. The other way of the dilemma is that if God is good because there is something beyond God, there is some other principle at play that God adheres to that makes him good, then that means there's something.
Well, then he's not all powerful.
He's not, he is by definition not all good. He also looks to something to know what's good. He is also, so there's no clean way. And And theologians have been trying to resolve that issue for centuries, for thousands of years at this point.
They should get
God
on it.
created the universe. God created the earth. And then he got very, very angry at it.
Mm.
And,
He did. He's very upset.
Right. There you go. Imaginary God. Is something good because it's favored by the gods, or are the gods appealing to another standard? Right. That's another way of phrasing it.
Mm. Isn't there some weird thing in the Bible about dashing babies' heads out on walls?
Yeah, against the rocks. You're going to be blessed. I forget what is that, Ezekiel? I don't know, man. There's a lot of crazy stuff in Ezekiel.
Mm.
It's a lot of crazy stuff.
Which, to me, that's not how I would celebrate a victory. I might want something to drink, maybe sit down with some friends.
Yeah. Well, you certainly want to. You certainly want to. You wouldn't sacrifice your daughter like that character in the Old Testament. Yeah. There, I think, is in Kings, and God was so good to Job. Job is my most. I'm going to switch gears. Job, great story.
Yes.
And whenever Christians start talking about Job, because there'll be ministers who will just start talking about what God's grace is and about how God, made Job's life, so great. It's like, yeah, but what about his first family? What about all the servants that died in the whirlwind, right? What about those people? They're just like hanging out, just working Job's fields, and then they're all killed. But don't worry, Job, God takes care of Job at the end.
Chris is pointing out, yeah.
Psalms 126, happy shall you be to dash the babies against the rocks. Thank you, Chris Black.
Oh,
I was trying to do that in sing song, maybe not iambic pentameter, right? Because I'm not a trained actor like Chris is, but yeah.
So that specifically, those babies were babies of the enemies, right?
Oh yeah. It makes sense, right?
Mm. It's appalling, but it still makes sense logically.
Yeah, sure. Well, all kinds of crazy stuff makes sense as soon as you stop stop thinking about it properly.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of examples of God being evil in the Bible. Even if a Christian can list good things, right? Like I can think of a couple of instances if I was a Christian, or when I was a Christian, I could point out that God was good. Giving Isaac, right? Making Sarah pregnant. Maybe that's a good thing. Now, on the other hand, potentially sacrificing him, making Abraham potentially, sacrifice his son and terrorizing his son. Yeah, that's bad. But, the God gave, you could argue from the Jewish side that David killing Goliath was good if you're, on that side of the fence.
He made paradise right at the beginning, it was all like perfect. We could all walk around nude and stuff.
Yeah.
And that
sounded pretty cool.
Jesus invented the Filet-O-Fish sandwich.
Okay, two things. I don't know if anyone's seen the Earth, Sea, and Air sandwich over at McDonald's right now.
No, but it's
it is, and this is not my joke, by the way. I saw this on Saturday Night Live, which was brilliant. I mean, the Weekend Update was really good last Saturday. So I think it was Michael Shea who was saying, the co-host on Weekend Update. He was talking about the sandwich, the Earth, Sea, and Air sandwich, which has some chicken, a burger, and then a fish patty, and it's all like a triple-decker sandwich. And then he goes,
God.
Does McDonald's think chickens fly?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, that was great. That was great. Yeah. So if you really want to, if you want to abuse your digestive tract, you can go to McDonald's, maybe right now,
Maybe
depending
not.
on where you are, and get an earth, sea, and air sandwich. Um, yeah. Okay. So now back to serious business. You're right, Theo. Any divine command theory of goodness is doomed to be subjective and authoritarian. Yeah. It's almost in the wording command that it would be authoritarian. It isn't like the divine ask theory or the divine I have a suggestion for you theory and maybe you should think about this. No, it's divine command theory. Yeah, it's authoritarian by its nature.
I hope you don't mind an abrupt change of topic, but there's another COVID news story out there that
Yeah.
two nurses had found a way to fake vaccination cards, and they think they cleared $1.5 million.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Well,
my goodness.
there's going to be people out there who scam, right? People who are creating fake cards, or and you know, in the city of in Boston, there's the official policy that you have to show your card, a QR code to enter a restaurant for sit down. You know, if you're going to sit down, you're going to go into a bar and have a pint or a drink. But the thing is that you know the people who are checking these items, you know, QR codes, there's no way for them to certify it. There's no way to say that, you know, if it looks legit, then of course you can come in, right? And you know, it's a nice attempt by the city of Boston to try to incentivize good behavior, but if you don't have a way to actually enforce the rule, then I don't know. It's just window dressing, right? It's just for show.
Ours is just a card, and they actually write on it with pen ink.
Tobin's friend. Do you know Tobin's friend?
Tobin's friend.
I don't know if you can see them in the back room.
I'll check private chat.
Yeah, private chat.
You'd have to be more specific than that.
You got a name, Tobin's friend? He's got a Tyler. Do you know a Tyler?
You know, I don't know if that person has just made a guess. I have known a Tyler in the past.
He's showing his face.
But it's been a long time. He is showing his face?
Yeah, he is showing his face.
That would be a trip.
That would be a trick?
Maybe we'll get some...
That would be wild if it's really the
Tyler.
Tyler.
Friend, I'm not going to say what your last name is, brother. So
how about this person tells me where I knew that Tyler at?
That would be fair. Because the reason why we have to be
I can ask him that.
Yeah.
Ask him to drop his pants.
Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. We're trying to be everyone.
It's the ultimate test.
No, it's not. It's not.
How well did you know him, Tobin? Because maybe
Tobin's
you recognize.
Tobin's doing his due diligence right now.
Okay. See, again, I think dropping pants, always funny. Suggesting that someone dropped their pants.
I don't know, man. Maybe in real life, but the internet, man, they're just going to have you do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Tobin, you're doing okay, so there you go. Tobin's taking care of this. And so the reason why we have to vet people that we don't know or that I'm not sure of, new people on the channel, is that, of course, there have been attempts at porn bombing. There have been people within the community who've been porn bombed before.
Yeah.
And yeah. So there you go. We're just being super cautious here. High school. You know Tyler from high school?
Tyler Durden.
No.
All right.
I don't really recall a Tyler from high school. This is somebody I know a Tyler that was somewhere around 10 years ago that I was hanging out with quite often.
No, yeah. Cryptomaria, your life is Fight Club. I know you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club, Cryptomaria, but I am intrigued by what Fight Club is. Or how your life is Fight Club. That's what I'm curious about. But you know what? What I can do is that I can close down the show early, and then we can talk to Tyler. And vet him properly. How does that sound? Does that sound okay?
That sounds, yeah.
So what I'll do, because what happens when I close the show down, as many of you probably know, is that even though we're not broadcasting, we can still talk to someone. We can still communicate. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close the show down early. We'll talk to Tyler, Tobin's friend, and if he seems legit, maybe we'll have him back on. Right? All right. So
hey,
take care.
I would like to announce something. I am going to be on the Tank channel tonight, telling my story. So
what time?
Great.
I think it's around 7:30, or it's somewhat early evening.
Okay. Well, if you check out the Tank channel, and you know what, with my girlfriend in Mexico, I got a lot of time on my hands, so maybe I'll check it out, brother. All right.
Heck yeah.
Mm.
All right. So I'm
Shamala
going
hamala.
to end broadcast. Shamala hamala, and we'll talk to Tyler, and we'll see what's what.